This week on the Quadcast.
And we should also say this is not all about what the guy is doing for the wife. Certainly the women need to be doing the same things because men appreciate things sometimes similarly as women do. Saying, don't you enjoy when your wife wants to take you on a date or gives you a little thoughtful card or a little love note on the way out the door?
Yeah. If it means I'm getting lucky. I mean, that's it. Everything ends up with getting lucky.
All right.
We are simple.
The one show that makes you feel more intelligent for listening.
And I'm here. This is Courtney with as the Quadfather with Dr. Colleen Mullen. How are you, Colleen?
Hi, Courtney. I'm fine.
Do I have to call you doctor?
No. Certainly not. Just call me Colleen.
All right, that works for me. Well, we get to, I'm always excited when I get to talk with you because it means that I get to kind of go into what I don't usually do, which is kind of be serious and think about psychological stuff, which is what I do for a living. And you do that all the time on your podcast, Coaching Through Chaos, correct?
That's right. So I do Coaching Through Chaos, and we just started season 2. And what I do is bring interviews of people who will inspire, motivate, and empower my audience. So we cover all sorts of topics. And I think our season 2 is going to be every other week. We were doing weekly, and I think to manage everything, we're going to do every other week right now.
Yeah, it's hard to line up interviews. I mean, that's the trick, is getting everybody's schedule together, especially with the important people that you talk to on your show. They're quite busy, I'm sure.
Right. Well, and I try to tailor the interviews for each guest. So I have to do a lot of research. I read every book. I tailor every interview for the guest. So I try to really personalize it. So that's where I find the time it takes besides running my practice and everything else. It becomes a lot of time management skills need to be implemented. So
yeah, that's a lot of homework. That's like doing.
But it's been great. We love it.
Yeah, the product is really good. I mean, every time I see it, I'm like, man, that's a good one. Because so you seem to be able to pull out topics that are interesting to me, and I think interesting to a broad range of people. And on this one, it was the movie Inside Out is what we're going to be discussing today, and the implications from that movie and how. The thoughts that it inspired in you and in me when we saw it, and we'll assume for the audience that you've seen this movie. I mean, it's been out. It had great theatrical release. It's been in video for a while, and I would say we're really not going to be doing spoilers per se, because the story is important, but really the tenets upon which it's built are more important.
Right. And Courtney, before we get into it, why don't we talk about and introduce your podcast to my audience?
Oh, well, I kind of feel a little self-conscious because I do this type of brain stuff with you, and that's what I do. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I work in a counseling center, but when I do my podcast, we don't do homework. We're just telling stories from our lives, trying to be goofy and silly. So it's a departure, whereas yours is an extension of what you do. Mine is the opposite. And yes, well, obviously I can't help but keep myself in it. So that I do have psychological pieces and relationship pieces that I pull out. But I don't do homework. I don't need another job. My job is just putting this thing together, and that's enough for me.
Right, but you and Swanee do some entertaining storytelling about your lives and experiences.
Yeah.
It's a nice departure for everybody.
Yeah, and he works in brain surgery every day. So we've said, I'm the mind and he's the brain part, because he doesn't know much about psychology, and I don't know nothing about cutting into people's heads. So we bring different perspectives, that's for sure.
Right.
So without further ado, let's get on with talking about the movie Inside Out. And if for those who don't know, well, go stop now and go watch the movie, because we're going to kind of set it up. There's five core feelings that are in our star Riley's head, and I'm going to introduce them all through this clip, and so you'll get to know what we're going to be talking about as we go forward.
I'm sadness.
Oh, hello. I'm joy.
Looks like you got this. Very good. Oh, that's her turn. Oh, look out!
That's fear. He's really good at keeping Riley safe.
Easy, huh? How about? Oh, we're good. Here we go. All right, open.
This looks new.
Think it's safe?
What is it?
Okay, caution. There is a dangerous smell, people. Hold on, what is that?
This is disgust. She basically keeps Riley from being poisoned, physically and socially.
That is not brightly colored or shaped like a dinosaur. Hold on, guys. It's broccoli!
Riley, if you don't eat your dinner, you're not gonna get any dessert.
Wait, did he just say we couldn't have dessert?
That's anger. He cares very deeply about things being fair.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
So when you first saw the movie, did you know what you were getting into?
I had heard about it, and I heard that people were really relating to it, and all of a sudden everybody understood their emotions differently. So I thought, what on earth? It's a cartoon movie. It's a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine what I was going to walk into, but it was really something that now I actually refer people to watch it, who are trying to better understand emotion management and why our different emotions are so important to have.
Yeah, as we were preparing for this, I thought, it felt like something was missing. That as good as it was, and I never really thought of disgust as one of those key emotions or key feelings. But as they describe it, I'm like, okay, well, because obviously a lot of different emotion words would fall under that. And as I was reading a little bit for this, I got to study if I'm going to hang out with a doctor. And so the only thing that they said that was missing was surprise as an emotion. But other than that, in Psychology Today and other online reviews of this by psychologists and the like, everybody said, yeah, this pretty much fits the range in as narrow a fashion, but as broad a fashion to cover everything as happens in our heads.
We have, obviously, under these key emotions that it features in the movie, there's all sorts of other feelings that we have, and they kind of made a nice little package out of the 5 that are in the movie.
Yeah, joy, fear, disgust, anger, and sadness. So, but they didn't stop there. They weren't just dealing with emotions. They were dealing with core memories and different islands. They had Friendship Island and I remember Goofy Island and Hockey Island.
Right.
So, go ahead.
Showing where we store everything. They called them core memories in the movie, and they highlighted these islands as ways of places where we store these memories that mean something to us, that actually color how we view ourselves in the world.
And so how accurate do you think that is? I mean, do you think that, like at one point in the movie, sadness starts touching some of the core memories and changing them from the memories that Riley had, which were positive, to, sad memories. What do you think about that? Do you think people kind of color their history like that?
I do. I think that they're calling core memories. We also have the idea of core beliefs. So these core memories kind of make up our core belief system. And when we look at how one of these core memories can be changed, so you and I do a lot of relationship work, and we have couples who, if you're dealing with infidelity or something, you'll have somebody who, will say, oh my gosh, I thought we had a great relationship, and they found out that their partner was having an affair. All of a sudden, they remember things differently, and they say, well, maybe this isn't what I thought it was, and it will color and taint the memory. So I think if we have, and I think that can be changed positive or negative. There's lots of times when you work with little kids who are abused, and they go into the foster care system, and you work with them, and they have an idea of not feeling like anybody loves them, and they kind of believe that that's going to be their outcome. And different experiences can change. And when you say, well, but look, so-and-so loved you. Maybe there was a grandmother that was a consistent part of their life. Maybe there was somebody who meant something to them and showed them love. You pull out and say, okay, well, look, that actually is not the truth that you thought it was. And they can make sense of their experience differently.
As I was chewing on this in preparation for our discussion today, I was thinking, okay, well, the one thing I really try hard to do in my life is not to be run by my feelings, and so, but this whole movie is all about the feelings. But I really think that the key, the central character in this movie is really joy. And joy is almost the administrator of everything, right? Because the other emotions are lost without joy. And so I thought, you know what? It really is, joy is more the thinking portion. You know, we talk about all the emotions and the rest of it. The joy is saying, no, let's control sadness. Let's put sadness in a circle. Let's, redefine the move into her new house, because Riley moves into a new house. Let's redefine it as, hey, you know what? We need to have, some opportunity here. To not just this is a rotten place. This is an opportunity for creating a new environment for Riley. So it's almost like that she becomes that thinking part when really all we're talking about is the feeling part.
Yes, and the way that the movie frames it, joy wants that to be the predominant emotion that Riley feels. And as you pointed out too, interestingly enough, is that all the other emotions are lost without joy. She pulls everybody together. Because the goal for, I think, all the emotions, or the goal for Riley, is to have a happy life, like many, kind of how our world works. We want everybody to be happy and be joyful. So it's hard for people to understand they have to have these other emotions, which I think we're going to talk a little bit about as we get more into it.
So here we go on what they have as the core memories.
But the really important ones are over here. I don't want to get too technical, but these are called core memories. Each one came from a super important time in Riley's life, like when she first scored a goal. That was so amazing. And each core memory powers a different aspect of Riley's personality, like Hockey Island. Goofball Island is my personal favorite.
Come back here, you little monkey!
Friendship Island is pretty good too. I love Honesty Island, and that's the truth. And of course, Family Island is amazing. The point is, the islands of personality are what make Riley, Riley.
That was an interesting piece, because memories are what make us who we are, right?
Yes.
That establishes, and so let's take a drastic example of the way to color a core memory. Say that you were, raised in a family and you had a white picket fence, and you mom and a dad and sister and all the rest of it. And then when you're 22 years old, you find out that you were adopted, and you never knew you were adopted, right? So all of a sudden you're going to color all those core memories with the fact that, wait a minute, they were lying to me the whole time. They were treating me like I was actually their child when I really wasn't their child, and they were keeping this big secret. So all of a sudden you've colored your core memories, your family island in this case, would totally be changed, because you are reliving that, and every time you think about your family and your youth, you're like, yeah, but they knew I wasn't really their child. I mean, that is, I would say, one of the things that we work on in therapy, is that we're working with people to kind of redefine, how their history has impacted them in how they're living right now.
Yeah, and I think in that example, one of the major changes also that a person would think is that they were wanted, and although their adopted family wanted them, they then go back and say, oh well, I started in the world with my mother not wanting me. And that certainly can taint us and taints the memories. And our memories then form our what's called core beliefs, and our core beliefs are how we orient ourselves and how we see ourselves in the context of the world as we go through it.
Okay.
And so our core beliefs are about so if we have positive core memories, we're going to have core beliefs that say, I'm lovable, I'm, a good person, I deserve good things in life. If our core memories are negative ones and tainted with sadness, loss, abandonment, things that you and I might see our clients for on a daily basis, we see people that then have core beliefs that say, I'm, nobody's going to love me. Nobody wants me.
Right.
I'm not going to be successful. I never finish my goals, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. So I think in the movie, when they do the core memories and the islands of personality, I think are really nice ways of explaining how important and how we compartmentalize our memories into different facets of our life.
Right. And our parents help us. Obviously, they're the first ones to give us that definition of who we are, right? I mean, if they say, you know, you're capable, you can do anything you want, you're valuable, you know, you matter, your opinion is important. But if they say, you know, just snap out of it, shut up, you know, go to your room, you know, that's not relevant. Every time you try to do something, you obviously fail. I mean, we can all hear these parental tapes, you know, play in our heads. And I in this case, I'm going to pull out one that's kind of out of order. But when Riley moves, her mom says, your dad needs, you know, is having a hard time too. We need something different from you. And this is Mom talking to Riley.
I guess all I really want to say is thank you.
Huh?
You know, through all this confusion, you've stayed our happy girl. Your dad's under a lot of pressure. But if you and I can keep smiling, it would be a big help. We can do that for him, right?
Whoa. Well. Yeah, sure.
What did we do to deserve you?
So what's the message there that Riley gets is that it's really important for you to fake being happy.
Right. No matter what you're feeling, put on a smiling face and don't let Dad know how you're feeling.
Right. Which is great if you can accomplish it from the inside. But if you're just putting on that, I'm only valuable when I'm smiling or I'm making people laugh or I'm productive, you know, or pretty or whatever it is, then all of a sudden that's going to become part of who you are and the definition of yourself, which can really set people askew.
Absolutely. And can really gear a person up for, like, you know, Riley's a little kid. What is she, about 12 or so in the movie? Mm-hmm. And when we move through life, if this is how she learns or gets taught how to manage her emotions, is to just hide what you're really feeling and put on, you know, a smiling face. When they become an adult, that's how they orient themselves too. And a lot of times that can translate into not being able to express your emotions because you don't think that anyone's really going to hear them or want to respond to them.
Yeah, and I'm only valuable or the only part of me is important. And which leads to an interesting next step, which is every time somebody says, wow, I really like you, you can say, you know, in your head, you're going, well, if you really knew me, I'm not presenting who I really am. I'm presenting who I think people need to see of me because that's how I think I'm valuable. But if you really knew me, you wouldn't really like me, even though, which we can see. We could point out, like you could point out to a teenager, look, you have all these friends, look at all everybody's calling you and wants you to be part of their party and part of their team and come over. And you're like, no, if I can't act like I really feel, because I'm not valuable if I show all of me. So consequently, nobody can know me, and consequently, nobody can really like me, which is a really awful setup.
Yes, of course it is. And right, and it's hard to break that once we're in there. You know, so when you bring up teenagers, when they get that mindset, it is hard to kind of break that away, no matter how much someone, whether it's a parent and some other adult, some other friend tries to convince them otherwise.
Yeah, and I think this movie dances on it a little bit about how we have Riley has all of her 5 core emotions, but it also has Mom and Dad with their committees too. And I'm going to pull out a clip here where it's the Mom's many voices, and I think it and integrates with Riley's many voices. So and how she interprets when her parents are arguing about after they make the move to San Francisco.
No.
I'm starting to envy the dead mouse.
Get out the rubber ball. We're in solitary confinement.
Riley can't live here.
She's right.
The worst.
Really bad.
It's absolutely the worst.
This house
It's the worst as I've ever been in my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's nothing our butterfly curtains couldn't fix. I read somewhere that an empty room is an opportunity.
Where did you read that?
It doesn't matter. I read it, and it's great. We'll put the bed there and the desk over there.
The hockey lamp goes there.
Put the chair there.
Well, the trophy collection.
Over
The
there.
poster there. We need more
Yeah, I like that.
Now we're talking. Let's go get our stuff from the moving van.
All right. Goodbye. Well, guess what?
And here goes Mom and
Van
Dad.
won't be here until Thursday.
You're kidding.
I signed a contract.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst. The van is lost. I've been losing.
You said it would be here yesterday.
I know that's what I said. That's what they told me.
They're stressed out. What are we going to do?
What is their problem?
I got a great idea!
Did you even read the contract?
Anderson makes her move. She's closing in.
Hey. Oh, no, you're not.
Lining up for the shot.
Coming behind you. Watch out.
So So what happens in that clip is we've got all of Riley's voices running around in her head. Then she integrates or walks into a room where her parents are stressed out and arguing. And what she does is she says, oh, I'm going to be goofy. I'm going to draw Dad out of that argument with Mom, and we're going to play a fake hockey game, which will de-escalate the tension. And the one thing, and I'll let you jump in here, is that really struck me about this is it's not just I'm happy, I'm sad. I mean, all of those feelings and thoughts were all running through her head at the same time. And I thought they did a real good job at showing some integration of all the different pieces.
Yes, and what you're describing too is something that does happen a lot of times where the 12-year-old or however old the kid is will step in to try to absorb the parent's tension, right? And we call that triangulation. When Riley does it, it works for her, and she also then in doing that breaks her parents' tension and gets the kind of lovey family moment that she's in longing for while everybody else is so stressed out. And I think they did a good job in that particular scene. When we listen to it, it sounds really chaotic, but that is what happens for us. And sometimes we're all in a room with kids and parents or our partners or however it is, and everybody's got their own chaos going on in their own mind. And we don't really know which emotion is really predominant for that person compared to their partner or their kid or their coworkers if everybody's stressed out. So it's interesting to get that visual and that fun way that they presented it to kind of remind us that we really don't know what's going on. It's always good to check and go, well, what is going on right now? Because I know I'm feeling stressed, but maybe someone else is feeling fear. So.
Well, and I think one of the things that we do is life is easier if we can understand that somebody's happy or sad or excited or scared or whatever. And the truth is, it's almost, it all exists on a scale, right? It's like, well, are you happy that you made it into that college, that you got accepted? Yes, but I'm also scared. I mean, it's the thing I wanted, but I have all these other conflicting feelings that are going on at the same time. But that's very, very hard to explain to somebody, in total. I mean, if we had to actually explain all of that, well, I'm 20% this and I'm 60% that and I'm 10%. I mean, that was just very, very difficult. And it's just easier to understand what other people and yourself if you can make it, yes, I'm happy. Yes, I'm sad, or whatever else is going on. And I think that one of the things that I think that when we're getting into discussions with people, let's say arguments or whatever, and they say, your mom has always been a pain in the butt. It's like, okay, well, I thought you loved my mom. Well, I do love your mom, and she's a pain in the butt. Well, when you're in a discussion, it's like, well, finally it comes out. This is how you really feel. It's taken 5 years, but now finally you've said it. You don't like my mom. And if you don't like my mom, you don't like me. It's like, oh, it's like you just want to hear that one thing. And I think that's one of the things that I think helps me is I see people as, okay, well, that's that slice. That's not your entirety. So I'm not going to take you as that's exactly how you felt all the time and you've just been doing really, really good at hiding it for years. So segregating it out, it really helps me.
And that's in the work that we do. Also, having people kind of really recollect what they were feeling during an argument with somebody also helps kind of highlight those slices as you were talking about. So that they can really kind of get a handle on, okay, in this circumstance, I understand why this was being said. And in this, and I understand that it might not be true in this other setting, as you gave the example of the mother-in-law, and the conflicted emotions, right? And we call that cognitive dissonance when we have two conflicting ideas going on, usually emotions going on in our head, and we have a hard time making sense of it. We like to be in congruence, our thoughts and our emotions. So if our thought is, I'm super excited to go away to college, and emotion of fear comes up, it's hard for us to kind of really be confident that we should be excited about going away to college. It can pull us back down and go, well, wait, should I be checking myself? Like, should I be second guessing this? Why am I scared? Because I've been looking forward to this, since I went to high school, right. And this is my dream college and all those things. So it's hard to reconcile. And that's why I think this movie really does a good job of helping people understand that we feel a lot of things a lot of the time. And it's okay to feel things that don't make sense. If we were to write it down on paper and say at the same time, I feel terrified and I feel super excited. On paper, that doesn't go together. But in our amygdala, in our brain, where we hold our emotions, it does make sense.
Right. It's not an either or, it's a both and.
Yes.
But our brain isn't great at figuring that out. So speaking of how she feels and marshaling all the different pieces, at one point, Riley has her first day of school in her new school district or new city or new state in San Francisco. And here is Joy conducting all the pieces as she gets ready for her first day of school.
Okay, first day of school. Very, very exciting. I was up late last night figuring out a new plan. Here it is. Fear. I need a list of all the possible negative outcomes on the first day at a new school.
Way ahead of you there. Does anyone know how to spell meteor?
Disgust. Make sure Riley stands out today, but also blends in.
When I'm through, Riley will look so good, the other kids will look at their own outfits and barf.
Joy. Yes, Joy. You'll be in charge of the console, keeping Riley happy all day long. And may I add, I love your dress. It's adorable. Oh, this old thing? Thank you so much. I love the way it twirls. Train of thought. Right on schedule. Anger. Unload the daydreams. I ordered extra in case things get slow in class.
Might come in handy if this new school is full of boring, useless classes, which it probably will be.
Oh, sadness. I have a super important job just for you.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Follow me.
What are you doing?
And there. Perfect. This is the circle of sadness. Your job is to make sure that all the sadness stays inside of it.
So, you want me to just stand here?
Hey, it's not my place to tell you how to do your job. Just make sure that all the sadness stays in the circle. See? You're a pro at this. Isn't this fun?
No.
Atta girl.
So that's all those parts getting ready for school on the first day. And sadness is the one who Riley, or Joy in this case, pushes out makes stand in her own circle.
I see that, and I think lots of parents even would relate to kind of seeing their kids frantic in those beginning days of school and understanding that their whole world is getting turned upside down at times, and inside that's what they're dealing with. Joy pushing sadness out is a way of, we have defense mechanisms, we have ways that we orient ourselves, ways that we kind of plan and say, well, what's going to be the worst case scenario? Well, the last thing she wants to do is cry in the middle of class, and because she's scared or sad about being away. And planning to say, well, I'm going to be happy today is one of the ways that we get taught along the way. I think just naturally we get taught like that's what we should do. And so sometimes we feel even worse if sadness creeps up on us. We can't keep our emotions at bay. We can't lock them away in a box. We can try, and sometimes we do a good job at managing them, but we can't totally lock them away, as Riley finds out.
Yeah, just try when somebody says, "Hey, how you feeling today?" or "How you doing?" and you say sad. Try to make that conversation go on, right? People don't. They say, "Oh, don't be sad." What can I do to make you happy?
Yes.
There's that. Keep sadness over there in a box, and when you're sad, you want to go in your own room. You want to keep yourself away from people, or this is just the classic, right? If you feel bad, make yourself feel better. So, go out and start a new relationship, have a drink, have a pill, all these things, because we don't want to feel sad. And who is it? There's a comedian who does a whole riff on being sad and the joy that he feels that he can just be completely in his sadness, and that's okay. And I'm like, man, that's powerful, because sadness is an integral part of life, of experiencing life fully. If you shut down sadness, it's almost like, say, if you constrict sadness and you say you're not going to have sadness, well, then your joy is not going to be as full. It's like it's what happens when you take an antidepressant, right? Everything goes to the mid-range. You're not going to get sad, but you're not going to get super excited either. So, you just balance. I don't know what happens on a chemical level, but if we do that without chemistry and we just say sadness is going to be, locked away over here, well, you're just not you're not going to be fully living life. And to fully live life, sadness has to be part of it.
Absolutely. To have the full range of emotions, and we get so scared of sadness, and there's really no need to. And as you said, without the sadness, our joy wouldn't quite feel as joyful. We wouldn't get so excited about things.
I guess it's kind of that cliche, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Or is it? You know what I mean? When you're in the midst of that heartbreak from a breakup or a sad situation, you're like, I wish I never even started going down this road, because this just hurts too much. So when you're in it, people want to pull you out of it. And I think that's demonstrated here in this movie. And there's a couple more pieces that I want to jump on, and that is this one. Okay, as a husband, on the number 9 there, they're having dinner with Riley. She's not in a good mood. Joy is lost in her world. Joy is not present, and so other people are taking over. Other emotions are taking over, and the mom is having a discussion with Riley, and Dad is also at the dinner table. And I just have to say, as a husband, I've related to this many times, and I'll tell you why in a second.
It was fine, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, very smooth. That was just like Joy.
Something is definitely going on.
She's never acted like this before.
That's
what
Mom.
should we do? We're going to find out what's happening, but we'll need support. Signal the husband. Ahem.
With a nice pass over to Reed, comes across that right.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
Is it garbage night? We left the toilet seat up. What? What is it, woman? What?
He's making that stupid face again.
I could strangle him right now.
Signal him again.
So, Riley, how was school?
You gotta be kidding me.
For this, we gave up that Brazilian helicopter pilot?
Boo! I'll be Joy.
School was great.
You know what? And I have tried to teach my wife, and she's learned very well. She'll start talking to me, and I said, honey, what you don't understand is when you start talking to me, you're actually interrupting. I know it may look like I'm just sitting here, but you're actually interrupting this committee that's going on in my head. So please signal me, get my attention, because she'll always say, well, you're not listening. I'm like, I didn't know we were talking.
You're one of those.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, because I've got this, what I call my radio show in my head. There's always these things going on in my head, and someone has to get my attention. Just because I'm just standing there doesn't mean I'm ready to receive audio information. So I totally related to this part of the movie.
Riley, she, as you said, she wasn't present. So her different emotions were stepping up. So anger stepped up and said something sarcastically. Yeah. I think disgust responds to her as well.
Okay, we talk about core beliefs and our value is received by how our parents treat us, and how hard emotions are in many families not allowed to be expressed. And here's how Dad decides, and not untypical for us men. We're not taught. I mean, there's no classes on emotions in school, yet they run our lives and run people's lives a lot. And so this dad acts in a pretty normal way for a dad.
Sir, she just rolled her eyes at us.
What is her deal? All right, make a show of force. I don't want to have to put the foot down.
No, not the foot.
Riley, I do not like this new attitude.
Oh, I'll show you attitude, okay?
No. Stay happy!
What is your problem? Just leave me alone.
Sir, reporting high levels of sass.
Take it to DEFCON 2.
You heard that, gentlemen? DEFCON 2.
Listen, young lady, I don't know where this disrespectful attitude came from.
You want a piece of this, Pops? Come and get it!
Yeah, well...
Here it comes. Prepare the foot.
Keys to safety position. Ready to launch on your command, sir.
Just shut up!
Fire!
That's it. Go to your room. Now.
Foot is down. The foot is down.
Good job, gentlemen. That could have been a disaster.
Well, that was a disaster.
That last part was Mom inside Mom's mind.
Right. To her, it was a disaster, and to him, it was a success.
Yeah, exactly. I squelched that attitude, and I've heard it said, we teach our young boys to control their anger, right? To control their acting out, to control their physicality, right? No, you can't put your hands on anybody. Don't punch, even though every boy wants to punch when they're disagreed with or feel like they've been wronged in some way. But what we need to teach our young girls is to not. Just because it's a feeling, and I tell this to my kids, I'm like, you can feel however you want. I care how you act, okay? How you treat me, So to say shut up or to be disrespectful or whatever, I don't particularly allow it. Although there are times where it's like, let's just talk about your feelings. Let's talk about them. Doesn't mean I'm going to change anything, but I understand you're upset, which my kids hate that because they're like, you're so rational and so reasonable, because I don't get drawn into their emotion side. But I don't think as parents we are really taught how to handle the emotions of our kids. And I think what we do is what this dad does, which is put the foot down. I'm disallowing that emotion.
Yes, well, I totally grew up, and that scene reminds me, my dad was a great guy, but I totally grew up with that. I'm going to put my foot down, Collie, if you don't stop. Mm-hmm. So I related to that scene, at least from Riley's perspective.
So you spent a lot of time in your room, did you?
I did.
Me too.
I did.
Well, and it's what happens then. What happens is you go to your room and you have to self-talk your way through it. Right? That's it's like either you can spend time ruminating about how rotten your parents are, or you can say, that didn't work out. This isn't where I want to be. How can I strategize and make it so it's different? But to be able to think about your feelings is an amazing skill, right? Because most of the time we don't have feeling language. Matter of fact, I heard something where it actually helps your brain chemistry if you can just say what your feeling words are. It changes your brain chemistry. So we don't give feeling language to kids. I understand you're sad. I understand you're lonely. You might be missing, where you used to live. Did you have a rotten day? Whatever. And that's where I think mom's committee in her head was like, well, let's reach out to this young girl, who is my daughter, instead of saying, I'm disallowing this sass and you're going to go to your room. I think that's where moms, at least in our society, say, I'm going to pull those emotions out of you. I think that helps. I mean, we have to have some balance. We can't let emotions run unregulated and just behave how we feel all the time. But there has to be a place where we can also have a way to express what we're feeling and have it be okay.
Yeah, and I think that the way that Riley dealt with it by storming upstairs and after Dad said go to your room, it, as you were saying, it's good for us to think about our emotions for a little bit. Like, why are we feeling this way? Why does it hurt so bad? Why are we so angry about this? And just for everybody that's listening, at this point in the movie, all of Riley's emotions or core memories have been tainted by sadness. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. And she has not had that in her life before, where she's had this profound sadness. So she detaches at that table when she allows anger to step in and respond for her, disgust to say something to mom. She doesn't know how to deal with sadness, so she's detached and just not present at all when Dad's getting mad at her.
And it was kind of a setup too, right? Because as we played earlier, Mom said, hey, by the way, I really want you to be happy. So if you could just do that for Dad, just be happy. Yeah. Don't engage, your sadness part. And when she starts her first day of school, she makes sadness stand in that little sadness circle. And so they're trying to relegate sadness as not having a place. And as I say, if you've pushed something down, an emotion down hard enough, it's going to come out sideways. It's going to come out in a way that you don't want.
Absolutely. Often it comes out as resentment, which is what what Riley was showing. And that does happen a lot when we think that we're doing something. We're going to set aside how we feel for someone, whether it's a parent setting aside when they get upset by their kids or disappointed, and don't express it in an appropriate way. And they just kind of say, well, I'm going to let this one slide. Sooner or later, there's enough times where they let something slide and then they have to express it and it comes out ineffectively usually, or within couples all the time, relationships. People will set aside how they feel at times and say, well, I don't want to bother them, or maybe I don't need this right now emotionally. And if they set that aside, then what you end up with is resentment between the partners, or at least resentment from one to the other if the other one is just oblivious.
Well, and I think, in making my relationship work, I had to learn to ask for things that I wanted, like as simple as this, because I'm a man. I don't know if it's male characteristic or not, but I want recognition when I do something, right? So I would go out and mow the lawn, and I would say, hey, honey, tell me that the lawn looks great. And she'd say, oh, honey, the lawn looks great. I said, but you didn't look outside, but I don't care. because it works for me. I just needed to hear that, some acknowledgement that I actually did something around the house instead of just podcasting all day long. I actually did it. So, I learned to ask for what I want, but I think sometimes there's a double bind there where, I'll ask my wife, I'll say, well, what do you want? And she'll say, well, I'd like to have flowers and dinner, that'd be great. And so I'll call her and ask her out on a date. And I say, hey, let's Friday, I'm going to bring you home some flowers and we can go out to dinner. She goes, well, no, I told you to do that. So it doesn't count. And it's like, what? I'm giving you what you wanted just because you asked for it, just because it was on the list. Does that mean you want me to be thoughtful and think about you when I'm not around you and anticipate what you want? I don't know that I can do that. I can do what you tell me. Put it on a list.
I'm developing an app for that.
That would be good.
In the background.
The intuitive husband app. It alerts you. Yeah. It gives you words to say. Tell her she looks beautiful, even though you're not with her.
Right. So we do that all the time with couples, and I think the biggest thing that we can all of us can stand to learn at different times is that we can't expect our partners to read our minds. No. So and we do have to tell our partners what we want. So when your wife tells you that she wants flowers and dinner dates and stuff like that, and I know that you guys have probably all smoothed this out, but when then our partner does it, we have to be like, oh, thanks. That was really nice that you did that, instead of shooting it down, right? And saying, well, right. Now it doesn't count. It all counts. The effort counts.
And I've heard it said, and you're a girl, that for women everything is 1 point, and for men we think that you give a diamond ring, that's 100 points. That ought to get me some credit in the love bank, if you will. And for women it's like, okay, well, you got me a ring, that's 1. And it's like, well, if I bought you a dress, that's 1. If I took you out to dinner, that's 1. And I'm like,
I must be a lot lower maintenance than others, because I would have given more points for the ring and the clothes and the dinner.
Yeah, and a vacation should count as more points, But sometimes our scoring,
flyer miles, right?
Yeah, it's the way I look at it.
So you do the bigger distance, so you get the bigger piece of jewelry, you get the bigger expression of love, you get the dinner dates more frequently, you get more points, right?
Right.
So if you just travel from, San Diego to LA, that might only be 100 points. But if you go from San Diego to New York, that might be 5,000.
Right. And it should store up, so you should get more credit. Like giving a loving card that has a nice inscription on a no occasion day, it should get you more points than on a birthday when it's expected. So you got to show those loving gestures, even when there's no particular reason, and that's you score more. That has nothing to do with the movie. It's just part of our psychological relationship stuff here.
Right, and I think there'll be a lot of women pretty happy if their husbands hear you saying that.
Well, yeah, do better than me.
A lesson for the guys.
I've been married for 24 years, so I'm still learning though. It's never over,
and we should also say this is not all about what the guy is doing for the wife. Certainly the women need to be doing the same things, because men appreciate things sometimes similarly as women do, saying, don't you enjoy when your wife wants to take you on a date, or gives you a little thoughtful card or a little love note on the way out the door?
Yeah. If it means I'm getting lucky. That's it. Everything ends up with getting lucky.
All right.
So we are simple. We are not that complicated. Everything. A lot of things can be okay. All right. So speaking of things like that,
we're talking to the movie, right?
Yes, we're talking. Okay, you alluded to it before, and I thought this was interesting when Riley is processing things, and we talk about coloring core beliefs or history, and sadness grabs a hold of things and turns happy memories sad. I think of it as filters, but they set it up as reality distortion, and there's a little dramatic play, and I think it's done in a dream context, but they're really trying to review and recolor Riley's memories of certain events, and so here's a little dramatic play of reality distortion, as they call it.
Mm-hmm. Add the reality distortion filter. Love it. Remember, play to the camera, everyone. Riley is the camera. Makeup, get out of there. We are on in 5, 4, 3.
Hello, class. Before we begin today's pop quiz...
Yeah, she is one bad actress.
So reality distortion in our memories. What do you think about that?
Well, I think we all do it to some extent. it suits us or it doesn't suit us, I mean, and I say that as sometimes it's really healthy for us to distort our reality of what's going on. Maybe when we are very nervous about doing something, doing a presentation, teaching a class, putting yourself out there, maybe dating, stuff like that. Like you want to distort the reality. You might have to distort your reality, because if your reality tells you that you're super nervous and the people are going to see it and everything's going to go wrong, we have to tell ourselves, yeah, no, I'm super confident. I'm going in there, my smile's on, my chin's up, I know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna kill it, And so that's distorting reality as a way of calming ourselves. And then distorting reality in a negative way is when we hold on to things. Either sometimes people will hold on to, we do things that are just self-sabotaging when we distort reality. A lot of times we will either hold on to a relationship too long that isn't working, or kind of pine after something that we let go in our life and idealize it, and we distort it in a negative way. We distort it in a positive way, but it doesn't suit us.
Right. And a lot of times the way you hear that is after they're like, you know what? I never really looked at it like that. I always was thinking that they were whatever. Like an affair is an easy one, right? I always thought they were working extra hard and they were bringing home extra money, and that, but what I found out was really they were not home because they were out with this other woman. And, I just didn't see it now. I'm such a fool. How did I not see it? Because they were distorting reality in order to keep it in a positive vein. And instead of, when their friends are coming to them and going, look, you know what? He doesn't treat you well when you guys are together. He talks down to you. No. He's just had a rough day. So that's where you almost need someone to help kind of check you. It's like, am I distorting reality? Should I really be looking at this more positive, or should I be really looking at it more negative? And just to have someone you could talk to that's open to both sides and helps you process for yourself, because ultimately you're the one who's going to put those filters on. You're the one who's going to color your core memories. If you can look at, like, say you grew up with a parent who had a mental illness. Well, once you know that as an adult, and you can look back and go, wow, I had a bipolar mother, and you can kind of color it with that. You go, oh, I kind of understand that it was her brain chemistry. I mean, it was a miraculous thing as a young man when I realized that women go through hormonal changes throughout the month, and that maybe it's not just me, right? Because when I was growing up, everything was about me, right? Every kid thinks that, right? Their parents get divorced, it's their fault, and so kids only can color things as they're in charge of everything. But when I started to realize that maybe dad had a rough day, and maybe that's why he's mad when he comes home, or, mom's having that time of the month, and maybe that's why she's crying, and I didn't even say anything, so to be able to understand and filter more in a reality way instead of a self-centered way really helped me to see the world in a more objective light and take everything a lot less personally.
That's exactly what I was thinking as you were talking. You take yourself out of the personalization aspect of it, and you can be objective and look at the reality, so you don't need those distortion filters. And sometimes it's, as you said, in the case of like an affair and a relationship, it can be painful to take that filter off. This reality distortion filter, it can be painful to take it off and see it for what it truly is. But then it goes into the idea that, yes, but you really should understand the relationship that you live in. You really should feel the emotions you should feel, so you can make a healthy decision about what relationship you want to be in, because you can stay in that one or you can get out, but you should know what relationship you're actually in, rather than having it all distorted.
That's the trick, right? Is because, I don't get too existential, but what is reality, right? I mean, are they really, reacting that way because of me, or they're reacting that way because of them? Or, how do I redefine and recolor my reality? And am I just being a Pollyanna and looking at everything through rose-colored glasses? Or am I in denial and I need to actually shape up and wake up and smell the coffee and say, look, this ain't all that I think it is. I'm telling myself I got a great job and it's a terrible job, or I'm telling myself that this is a great friend, and yet they let me down and lie to me, and I'm like, well, that's just them. It's okay. No, so that's where I don't know. We have to have somebody to bounce off of.
Well, and that's where I was going to go with this, is that we always, when we see people, we or just in general, we think of, really healthy people with healthy relationships for the most part have good support systems. And whenever someone comes in, they're dealing with a problem, like we always want to talk to them about, well, who's in your life? Like, who's around to support you? And it's really about, like, yes, it's about support, but it's like feedback also, because I think it's really important. That's why it's so important for people to have social connections, friends, other relationships outside of their, partner relationship, friends and social things, so that there is this reflecting board going on. People will check you, like friends that really care about you will check you when something is really off and you've really distorted things so out of perspective that they're like, what are you doing? So I think that that's a really little side note from the movie, but a way of kind of staying in check with yourself is also kind of having a healthy dose of social connection with other people, because they will know you and be able to see when you're kind of putting yourself in a place that you shouldn't be in.
I remember distinctly in college going through a difficult time, and I think it was probably something to do with a girl or something like that. I actually looked at who I was going to call and talk to, and I said, well, really, I kind of want to be mad right now and I want to make her a jerk, so I'm going to call this person. Because I know that they're going to agree with me, and I can vent and I can rage, and they'll go, yep, you're right. She's way off base, and, she's lucky to have had you in her life. I don't know why she dumped you and blah, blah, blah. And then I had the other friend who was like, all right, let's look at this. Where did you go wrong? What signals did you miss? And what was your part in the whole thing? But I had to, flip a coin or, call one before the other, because I knew who was going to give me the feedback that I wanted versus the feedback I needed, and when to time that out. And that's sometimes people don't look at their relationships like that.
Yeah. I think that's great that you had that kind of support. And of course, I think it's great for everybody to have friends like that, where you can get the feedback that you want at certain times. But you want to know, though, too, that when you're really off base, someone's going to tell you, hey, you should look at that.
Yeah, give it to me straight. Okay, so we got two more clips, and the first one is about coloring our memory and the importance of sadness.
Sadness. Mom and Dad, the team, they came to help because of sadness.
We have to get back up there.
Joy was stuck down here. We might as well be on another planet.
So that is an interesting piece, and you and I talked a little about it before, the place of sadness.
Throughout the whole movie, Joy is trying to keep sadness at bay. Mm-hmm. And the problem was that sadness tainted some of Riley's core beliefs. But as the movie goes on, we realize, as you said before, like, if you don't feel sadness, you don't really even understand your joy.
And she showed sadness, and that's what this clip was, and how it impacted other people. And I think it helped her.
It was all of a sudden realizing that the sadness had a place. It helped her understand what she was going to leave behind, and or that she was loved and that she was going to be missed. And so
and it allowed other people to respond to her differently. And I think that's what we all want to do, right? We want to put sadness, be sad in my room by myself. I don't want to go out, and show people that I'm sad, because everyone's going to try to talk me out of it or whatever. But it allowed other people, and we see sadness as weakness. And none of us want to be weak. We all want to be independent. We don't want to have to need anybody or rely on anybody. But in that clip in the movie, she realized that when she was able to show her sadness, other people were able to reach out to her. And guess what she felt? She felt loved. She felt loved. If she didn't show that sadness, it would not have created the opportunity for other people to say, no, you are valuable, you are loved, and I want to reach out and help you in your time of sadness, not just tell you to push your sadness under the rug. And that again, that goes back to those relationships.
When Riley is, or anybody, when we're feeling the sadness, I like how you said that it allows other people the opportunity to respond to us differently, right? Because if she had kept up the good face, which was actually being underlined by resentment the whole time, she wouldn't have understood that she was loved, as you were saying.
Yeah, she didn't. And you and I especially, have had conversations with people where, nobody really knows what's going on with me, right? I go to work, I don't show who I am, nobody really cares, nobody asks. Then I go home and I, grab a fifth of scotch and, I just feel better, but nobody knows that I'm going through that. So people have these secret lives because they believe that parts of them are not acceptable. That if other people knew this about me, or I showed this certain feeling in front of other people, what I'm going to get is rejection. And what this shows is if you have people who are healthy around you, that it gives other people the opportunity to actually know you, to relate to you, and you don't feel like you're all alone, which, everything about recovery and, learning more about yourself starts with, oh, I'm not the only one to ever feel this. Someone can relate to me. When someone says, man, I've been there, how empowering is that? But if you never give yourself the exposure to share who you really are, no one can ever relate to you. So you'll always feel alone.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of what we do with everybody is helping them be authentic, right? Express your emotions authentically. And as you brought up, recovery, drugs or alcohol, that kind of stuff, right, is understanding that other people have gone through this. And it's not always that you need someone who has been there, but you need to understand that other people have. It doesn't have to be that the person who's helping you has gone through the exact thing that you have, but it's that letting them in on it so that they can let you know, like, hey, there's so many other people that really could relate to what you're saying and relate to what you're going through. And if you would allow them in, you might not feel so alone in this, and you might not feel so lost or hopeless. And I think that's the reflection that other people have gone through, maybe some similar pain as we've gone through, allows us to have a little bit more hope.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, people don't have any usually.
Yeah, because they've cut off everybody because they don't accept those parts of themselves. So they're never going to expose that part of themselves to other people and possibly get rejected like they figure they're going to be. This movie is, and we just have one more clip. This movie is, it's kind of a breath of fresh air to actually have a vehicle by which we can, explore and discuss and learn kind of about how we function and how we interact with other people. But the story itself is very, very simplistic. Most of it is running around in Riley's head. It was nice that she didn't have any siblings. It was nice that she didn't have to go through a bunch of different journeys in the real life world, because it gave us the opportunity to kind of isolate and focus on her own brain. And they end with a really interesting part, which just throws everything into the air. And it's described on this clip.
All right, here you go. Your new expanded console is up and running.
Oh, wow. Cool, upgrade.
Hey. Oh, whoops. Wait, did I just do that?
Hey, guys, what's puberty? I don't know. It's probably not important.
Whoa, I have access to the entire curse word library. This new console is done.
Sorry, I did it again. My bad.
You're getting to the rink.
So it was. I have two teenagers. I have a 13 and a 16-year-old, and it dawned on me as I was raising them that when they hit puberty and they got all these emotions, I tell my kid he's on steroids, right? And not like real steroids, but he's getting floods of chemistry in his body that he's never felt before. And he also has no way of understanding it, right? He's never felt this strongly. I mean, when he threw a tantrum when he was 2, he was through it in, a minute or two. Now as a teenager, he can become sullen and withdrawn and all this period of time because he doesn't know how to deal with it. And puberty throws all of that into the air, and we don't teach any. We teach them the birds and the bees and a little bit of the chemistry, but we don't talk about the emotion side, where the things that used to be a 1 or a 2 on the emotion scale now are 9 or 10. And they're like, I don't know what is all this? What is all this passion and enthusiasm? And so it was nice that Riley in our story was prepubescent, because it made discussing these kind of topics a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think even as the end of that scene, her islands have expanded. Her islands of personality have expanded to Fashion Island, Friendly Argument Island for, anger gets excited about that, and then Boy Band Island, and it just shows, those are not really it is part of her personality as she gets older, and it just shows just how much kids her age, young teenagers, can get overloaded with information, right? And they try and have everything in there. So some kids want to be into everything. So they had what they were coming up with. So maybe the family, the sport they were involved in, the amusement park, or the goofball island. They have facets of their personality, but then when they get the overload of the emotions, the hormones that lead to the extra emotions, and then all the things that they have access to as they get older, just fills them up and can make it so much more difficult to manage at different times. It would be great if they all felt it, as you said, as passion and excitement, but most of the time they feel it as just distress and despair and anxiety and like, oh my God, what's happening to me? So
and loneliness and all those other things. And I think that, you and I'm sure both agree that life is complicated. It's not as simple as we've discussed here today. But I think in order to discuss this piece of our existence, this emotional part and this kind of committees that we have in our head, we have to kind of simplify it and boil it down just so we can understand that slice. And then we take that slice and we put it in the bigger picture of community and relationships and parents and dealing with other people's committees, as we have to do every day, all day. I appreciate you coming on and letting me be on your show to discuss this piece, even though we know it's not the breadth of the human experience. It is a slice of it, and we have to isolate it in order to kind of discuss it and boil it down, but we know there's so much more.
Oh yeah, well, thanks for having me. And one last note I wanted to point out that I just thought was so fun about the movie is for people to stick around and watch the credits, because then during the credits of the movie, they go back in and show the different characters that Riley and her parents came in contact with throughout the movie, and show them the committees going on in those persons' heads. So like the bus driver, her school teacher, who's like counting down the days and the minutes until school ends while Riley's having her breakdown in the middle of the classroom, and the bus driver who's got stuff going on in his mind, and the emo girl at the bakery. It was a lot of fun to watch that, and it just reminds you, and I think it's always good to remember, you really don't know what's going on in someone else's head, even if they, no matter what face they're putting on. So, we've all got our committees going on in our head.
Yeah, in the end, in some way, it's all about us. But in so many ways, it's never all about us. It's all about everybody else. Every time I have a bad experience or something where I'm kicking myself and I'm like, man, I hope that didn't screw up that relationship or whatever, I realize, you know what? They're walking away thinking about themselves, because that's what we love to think about. We all love to think about ourselves. So as much as I think I might have blown it or done something that was a big deal, I'm like, if I'm walking away thinking about myself, chances are they're walking away thinking about themselves and not really focusing on me. I'm really not the center of their world. Okay,
right. Well, thanks for having me,
yeah,
Courtney.
and thanks for coming on. Thanks for having me on your big brain show where I can bring my grand silliness, and it's an opportunity to dive a little deeper into a movie and the human experience. So thanks so much.
Absolutely. You're very welcome.